Happy Halloween Eve, everybody. Cliff and Evan, Right Sides Only Radio. We're back. A little couple-week hiatus there. Took a couple weeks to ourselves to allow the world to kick our asses, Evan.
Well, everyone needs to understand that we had a couple of weekends there. We've had this kind of small thing operating in the background known as an election cycle, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I know no one has been listening or paying attention to the news or on social media talking about this weird concept they call electing our next president. But
it's exhausting.
It's been happening completely under the nose of the general public for some time now, for the better part of a year and a half. So we had debates, and football season is back, and we've had all this crazy. And then Cliff comes down with, I don't know if it's Zika virus or whatever it is, some kind of weird thing they have in California.
Yeah,
but
some sort of disease we have out here.
Yeah, some malaise, if you will.
Yeah, well, I'll fill in the folks a little bit on that later. I'm feeling good, though, man. It's, like I said, a couple weeks here. You and I have been busy with other things as well, and just life in general, plus me getting a little under the weather. But we're back. We're back.
Yeah, the important thing is that we're back. So
yeah, that is the important thing. I'm really kind of bummed, though, we didn't get to go over Talladega, but, that was still not an opportune time.
Well, I mean, we could broach on it a little bit because here's the deal. Talladega to me was, I guess, what happened after the race to me seemed a little more fascinating than kind of what happened during the race. Because that obviously is what got highlighted. I mean, everybody talked about the Harvick Kurt issue after the race. Then, of course, they broached it today.
Run.
They broached it today pre-race, and then there's they put the spin on it where it wasn't necessarily readily identified as a punch. He might have just reached in and kind of rattled him a little. They brought it up again today when they were interviewing Kurt, and Kurt made the comment that he actually dropped an interesting soundbite. And I don't exactly know what he was alluding to, but he dropped it today, so this kind of is news.
Was it this?
And he kind of made the comment that there may or may not have been some discussion about the 11 car and maybe some other cars in the field that are serious contenders. So there might have been some pre-agreed upon strategy about maybe throwing the block, keeping some people in the field as far back as possible, and that maybe the bump after the race was kind of a, hey, dude, I thought you had my back.
Right.
And not necessarily ultimately a sign of aggression. And then he made the comment that he still made the comment that him and Harvick talked after the race, but he still thought that Harvick's his response was a little inappropriate.
Right.
But which apparently the Twitterverse believes that too, because I've just been seeing still timeline after timeline after timeline of the anti-Harvick sentiment. So, and hey, that's the rights of the fans. I mean, I totally get it, but
you need to grow up.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly that the camaraderie in amongst the teams that we watch through the regular season is starting to lose its shine, so to speak. I mean, we're seeing it kind of like today. After Martinsville and some of the comments that were made after today's race as well amongst teammates, that shine is starting to wear off, I think, on the teams themselves as they kind of get more into the chase and where we're at right now.
Well, in Stewart-Haas Racing, you and I have broached on this. As a matter of fact, we did this if the people that are following us now remember those days, it wasn't that long ago. We talked about the team dynamics of Stewart-Haas.
Right.
That team is a veritable tinderbox of personalities. So, Tony Stewart obviously is a technician of old school sentiment, and he always has a very poetic way of getting his point across.
Yeah.
He's been commonly accused of being a hothead. I tend to look at him as being passionate. And I think with a guy like Tony Stewart, everybody knows where Tony Stewart stands 100% of the time.
Right.
If you look at, especially at Kevin Harvick, he has been commonly accused for many, many years, basically since his entrance into the Cup Series, as being a bit of a virtual hothead.
Right.
The truth is that I think everybody knows where Kevin Harvick stands 100% of the time.
Yeah.
He is 100% intense 100% of the time. If you look at Kurt Busch, once again, the guy has been accused of being a rageaholic, a hothead, a smartass. I mean, you basically name it, and they have spray painted their sentiment about this guy over the decades that he's been. The interesting thing about Kurt Busch is, once again, everybody knows where Kurt stands 100% of the time.
Yeah.
So, and as far as Danica, same thing. Danica has been construed a lot of times as a hothead and somewhat temperamental. All four drivers in that garage are all very consistent, and you know, it kind of is what it is. These people are very high-strung. They are a little temperamental.
Competitive.
Sometimes they're competitive.
Yeah.
We're talking about a lot of money on the table, and Harvick basically was upset apparently because that car was a thing for Daytona, and he was a little upset that he got a quarter panel basically destroyed.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all internal drama, and I'm sure it'll all pan itself out.
Hey, you know, what company, you know, anywhere doesn't have that, you know, whether it's a race team or corporate America, whatever. You know, you have those you have those run-ins with people you work with, you know, the competition, things got to get done, and you know, it gets abrasive after a little while. So what are you going to do? So,
except with you and I.
Yeah, you know,
we don't have that. We don't seem to have that.
We found this fine balance. I don't know what that is, or imbalance. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, it's kind of like the rocks in your head fit the holes in mine.
There you go. That's a nice way to put it.
While we're talking about cooperation, and while we're talking about companies that come together to form a beautiful union and support each other, let's give a quick shout out, if you will, to some of the people who have supported us basically since day one. Let's give a huge shout out right now. Isaac Fitzwater, William Chu, and the Zip Air Tool guys are all heading to SEMA, but they're also awaiting the delivery of a very special person to us. He's the driver of the 29 Chevrolet SS hailing out of North Carolina, Brian Obaszynski.
Yeah. Hey, guys. They're headed out to SEMA, man. That's going to be epic. If you guys aren't following them already, you got to go check those guys out at Zip Air Tool USA over at on Twitter. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of stuff coming from SEMA, and like you said, with having Obi out there. And I think they have some other folks out there joining them, right?
Oh, they're going to have it's going to be great. They're going to have a prize wheel. You can actually, if you happen to be in SEMA in Las Vegas, here is an opportunity for you to win the very extremely limited edition green and yellow rightfronttire.com t-shirt. They're almost a unicorn in the motorsports world. That's actually going to be up there for a prize. They're giving away all kinds of stuff.
There you go.
By the way, we still have one power tool to give away for a lucky caller on our show. Basically,
that's right.
First one. So cool stuff, man. They're great people. Brian Obaszynski, otherwise known as Obi at The Real Obi. Great guy, man. He has been with basically in or around the right front tire and all the activities, and Cliff and Batman and the whole gang, like since day one.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Definitely. And he's actually he's the recipient of the NASCAR Wheeled All-American Series Rookie of the Year. So very big year for him.
Yeah.
And,
looking forward to seeing a lot of good things out of Obi next year in 2017. So
absolutely, let's go for a 29. Let's go for a 29 car championship.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, Evan, you mentioned the call-in number too. So our phone line's open if you guys want to dial in. 855-482-7223. We have our phone lines open like we always do. If you guys want to join in on the conversation at any point, maybe we say something that's completely just way out there, or get you heated, want to make a comment. I'd love to hear how people feel about some of the races and stuff. So like I said, 855-482-7223. You're listening to the Right Sides Only Radio Podcast. Evan Stark, Cliff Doherty. If you have an opportunity, check us out on Twitter at Right Sides Radio, and our Facebook page you can search for Right Sides Only Radio there. And one more item, our stickers, man. We have not really promoted our stickers yet. If you're listening to our podcast right now, we have these great Right Sides Sides Only Radio stickers. Would love to get those into your hand if you guys want to.
They're huge.
They're huge. They'll fill up the whole bed. They're great.
They're beautiful. We're very proud of them.
They'll make your car beautiful again. Great again. Or your ice chest or whatever.
Whatever you want to put them on.
Send us a direct message or whatever at Right Sides Radio off of Twitter, and we'll get those out to you if you guys want one.
Absolutely. We want to make sure also, I'm sure maybe some of you have heard, maybe you haven't heard, but one of our faithful was cosmically intertwined but not directly impacted. You all know Carlton. He's huge on Twitter. He's at practically every race. He's popping up, taking pictures, sharing his race experience with us. We caught after the scenes, after the race, and after the crowd started to disperse, Jeff Gluck, Jim Utter, a few people had posted that there was actually a very unfortunate, tragic accident. Apparently, there was a pedestrian-involved vehicular accident. There were 10 people involved. A few people were treated at the infield care center. Hey, guess what? Those places are basically like miniature hospitals. They take care of our drivers on a week-in and week-out basis.
Right.
The rest of them were sent to a local hospital, is my understanding. Go check out Jeff Gluck on Twitter. He posted a great article. He actually has some witness accounts. Our thoughts and prayers go out to all the people that were involved. Mm-hmm. And just in case you're listening and you haven't heard, Carlton is fine.
Yeah.
I got a text from Carlton. He was A-OK, but he said it was a total mess, and there was just cars everywhere, and there's people everywhere. And he said that Martinsville is kind of a difficult track to navigate if you're a pedestrian. So,
yeah.
I mean, everybody's okay.
Yeah, and I would imagine Martinsville, just like probably almost any other track. I mean, the tracks try to do a great job, I'm sure, to get people in and out of there and be safe and all that other sort of stuff. So it's up to us, man. Got to watch out for one another.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take it easy out there, man.
Absolutely. So hopefully everyone is okay, and this is ever a reminder that when you're at the track and you're sitting in traffic and it's a little frustrating, just remember, it was a great day at the track. Please stay in line. Please stay safe.
Download the Right Sides Only radio app.
There you
Listen
go,
to
man.
it while you're in the car.
There's a pretty good chance we're going to be spinning after the race. You can be sitting in the car listening to us.
That's right.
So, absolutely.
And then if that doesn't aggravate you, I don't know what else to give you. No.
Yeah, that might make you jump out of your car. You might not jump out of line, but you might very well jump out of your car. Tuck and roll is what I can say.
That's it. That's
tuck and roll.
Some great partners as we're on the topic. Just light up the world beverages.
Martinsville.
Oh, you want to go to Martinsville? Go. Martinsville.
Martinsville. Well, lots of implications. I love it when they say huge chase implications involved in this race. So, obviously, old 6-time pulls it off. Mm-hmm. I'm not one to gloat, and I'm not one to brag, but I just want to state for the record that I called it. So, that being said, and I'm sure I called it before the race. I sent the tweet out before the race.
Oh, okay.
I actually picked the top 5. I was wrong, basically, with most of them. I think I was wrong with all of them except JJ, but I tweeted out my top 5.
Okay.
And I picked Jimmy for the win. I just, for whatever reason, I felt the forces
pulling towards the
48 car. I'm sure our friend Batman.
I think Hamlin was feeling those same forces.
I'm sure our well-esteemed Batman is probably gloating right now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure she's walking around the house, high-fiving herself.
She's on Fanatics website ordering all the latest 48 gear.
Oh, man, it is. I can tell you right now, she is going to be on cloud 9 at Homestead.
That's
She's
cool.
going to be gloating and high-fiving herself, and,
That's cool, because my weekend was ruined last weekend, so I'm happy for people that got that to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, Kozlowski basically gets taken completely out of chase contention altogether.
Can I say that I'm okay? I'm okay. It's been a week. I let it soak in. But can I just say something? And I'm interested to know if anybody else agrees with this. Does Talladega get a track like the most amount of trash than any other track?
It appears as such. It's like a huge tunnel.
Am I mistaken? I mean, it seems like every time we go to Talladega, dude, it's like it's like a street sweeper out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it drives me nuts.
It's the same phenomenon. For some reason, those cars just suck trash up wherever it is.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
it's a big wide open. It just seems to always burn somebody.
lots of debris, and when you're traveling at 200 plus miles an hour, then I think they said that Tony Stewart actually hit 216 miles per hour.
Do your driver a favor and pick up a water bottle when you see it on the ground.
Absolutely, because trust me, if they need to throw a water bottle for a caution, they'll do it for themselves.
We haven't. You know what's the funny thing is, dude? I don't think we've seen a lot of those lately.
We have not had a lot of
Well, Junior's
bottle
been out
gates.
of the car though, so
we haven't had a lot of bottle gates here lately. Now, you will notice that, and I've actually witnessed it firsthand in the garage area. A lot of these drivers actually they're very fancy. They appear to be high dollar, almost like Yeti containers with straws. And a lot of the drivers actually carry those with them in the car, so chances are they're not going to throw those on the track.
Right.
Some of the drivers obviously carry those cute little chubby bottles of water, and those always come in very convenient. So they always come in really handy.
Sure, yeah.
But you got to make sure you got to stick the landing, though.
Yeah.
If you're going to cause a caution, you got to make sure you stick the landing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, back to Martinsville. Sorry, we kind of trailed off there.
That's what this show is all about. It's a total derailment.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Joe Gibbs Racing for a minute.
Okay.
I think that they obviously deserve a little bit of spotlight. Unfortunately, it appears as though there's a little bit of dissension in the ranks. How so? Well, it sounds like, and I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody. That's not what the show is all about. And we're not here to trash talk drivers.
No.
It's confrontation with each other about. One in particular was, I know Kyle was a little agitated that he thought that maybe he had the faster car. Mm-hmm. He was a little upset. He made several negative comments about his teammate, Matt Kenseth.
Yep.
On apparently a few occasions, the comment was made that they basically collectively as a group handed Jimmy Johnson the win, which I thought was interesting. There was a lot of early onset aggression exhibited by one Denny Hamlin. And what's interesting is that camp, and Cliff and I talked about this before the show. My attitude about JGR is every one of those four cars in that camp brings a winning car with them to the race every weekend.
That's fact.
I don't believe that there's any, hey, let's shift all of our attention towards Kyle, or I don't believe that. I believe that they are geared. They want every single one of those cars in the winner's circle.
Okay.
That being said, the personalities in that team seem to be almost separatist, maybe to a fault. I think that we've seen some cohesion with them in the beginning of the season.
Yep.
But it looks like this is where the true personalities start to shine, and it looks like, if you look at Hendrick Motorsports, Jimmy Johnson paid huge tribute to Jeff Gordon. Number one, obviously Jeff Gordon is the reason that he's at Hendrick Motorsports.
Right.
But he made a comment about, anytime Jeff Gordon is on the track, there's an opportunity to learn something. Now, here's a six-time champion talking about Jeff Gordon in that respect. I think that there's an Hendrick shop for each other.
Right.
I think they just seem to be family-based.
Right.
It seems like we're starting to see the JGR organization start to fracture a little bit under the pressure. And what's interesting is all but one car right now, if we went to Homestead tomorrow, all but Carl Edwards is in the chase.
Right.
They're in the hunt for the Cup right now.
Well, and like you said, we talked about this before we came on the show tonight. The fact is that, we've seen over the last couple chase race seasons, where the rub has been against, Matt Kenseth, Joey Logano last year to date, right, at Martinsville. It was Retribution Day. And now we see how the tables have turned, right? So now but look at who, I'm going to say this, look who the common denominator is in this thing now. Again, right? I mean, it seems as though whatever it is, maybe when the pressure is on, the number 20, Matt Kenseth, maybe when he gets into this chase, maybe he's so focused and so honed in, to have his teammate like Kyle Busch calling him an a-hole today, not working with him, I guess, the way that Kyle Busch wanted him to work with him or whatever the issue was. It seems as though Kyle's disdain was mostly directed towards the 20.
No, it was. That's what I guess that's the only person really that you didn't hear, and there were two people you didn't really hear anything negative out of.
Hamlin.
It didn't sound like Carl Edwards had a whole lot to say.
No.
And it sounded like Matt was doing what he does best, and that was, for the most part, keeping quiet and grinding it out lap after lap.
Right.
And let me make clear, this is my opinion and my perception, and people can like it or not like it. You can break out your torch and pitchforks. However you want to look at it is fine with me. This is not directed at the Sprint Cup in general. At Martinsville, it's not really a track where you can be terribly team-based. And guess what? If your teammate's car happens to have the faster car and shuts you down, that's life.
Right.
The 20 car is racing for a chase berth.
Well, it's like you said. Right? Let me pick this apart a little bit. I mean, you're right. Joe Gibbs Racing, any team for that matter, everybody brings a car to win that race, right? That's the expectation. So when Joe Gibbs Racing rolls in with those 4 cars and they're lined up to win today at Martinsville, now it comes down to, like you said, that's not a great track where they can really work together. Ironically, it took them quite a bit before Hamlin, Kenseth, and Kyle Busch were stacked up in the 3 and 4, 5 position, whatever it was. It took them a while to get there, but when it comes down to it, it's almost like the gloves come off at that point. When you're contending for those types of positions, granted, it was the first race of this round. Maybe things would be different at Texas at this point. When we're looking down the barrel of Phoenix after next week. Maybe that partnership or that need. Maybe today wasn't that race where, it was kind of anybody's game at that point. Well, obviously much different than how they chose to play Talladega the week before, right? So now they're looking at it, and maybe that's what maybe Kyle Busch was upset about, just the fact that, like I said, today wasn't really the great track to kind of work together for that sort of thing. Maybe that's how Kenseth was looking at it. Kyle Busch was seeing something different and saying, hey, look, it maybe, if I can get up there, we'll put the pressure on the 48 team. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's not a track. It's not a very forgiving track. So okay. So you're going to if it comes between me throwing a block, getting bumped back 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 spots, I'm sorry, man. That's just tough. It's not a track that you can really push a whole lot at. It's not a track that really benefits from any type of drafting or any type. I mean, it's a. For the most part, today they kind of turned that into a little bit of a 2-line track, but for the most part, it's an inside, tuck as close to the curb as you possibly can, come out of the corner as hard as you possibly can.
Pretty benign.
And I mean, if you get out of line, it's almost, in a way, it's kind of like a plate track. It's like if you get out of line, you get shuffled back across half the field. And that's just short track racing, and it's going to be a little aggressive, and there's going to be some bent fenders and some hurt feelings. And I don't expect, at this stage in the game, anyone to give a whole lot, even to the point where I don't expect Kyle Busch to cut any one of the other 3 cars any slack in the next 2 races. If he stands to win a race, I don't expect him to cut his teammates any slack.
No.
He is racing for a championship.
And that's the other interesting angle to that. He's looking for a repeat championship.
Absolutely.
So obviously Kyle Busch is racing from a much different perspective than I would say anybody else out there, including his teammates. Now what you can do is you can exhibit a little bit of professionalism and a little bit of sportsmanship and say, you know what? It is what it is. We live to fight another day. 3 of us are in the top 4. Right. And this is going to be a very contentious battle all the way into Homestead. If you look at the personalities that are at play, the most dangerous person right now
in the Sprint Cup Series has just officially secured himself one of the coveted 4 spots in Homestead. Yeah. That is the guy that they need to be. Here's something else. We're rolling into Texas Motor Speedway. It's a little-known fact that Jimmy Johnson has been relatively successful at Texas Motor Speedway in his career.
A little bit.
So that's the guy they need to be worried about, not each other. They need to be worried about Jimmy Johnson. They need to be worried about Kevin Harvick rolling into Phoenix. I mean, there's a lot at play right now, and I think this chase is going to be very, very contentious. We got some good old-fashioned hotheads battling for the Cup. So,
do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Right, amen, brother. I mean, I totally agree with you. I mean, the fact is, when we talked about this before starting the show tonight, and the way kind of the chase is playing out, and what we're looking for. You had mentioned about, not having Harvick. Here's what's funny. Depending on where it would be at this point, having Harvick in Phoenix, 9 times out of the 10, the argument is we're going to hand Harvick Phoenix, right? And,
don't even unload.
Yeah, exactly. Let's save ourselves the time. So anyways, if we're handing Phoenix to Harvick at this point, like you said, the bullet to dodge at this point is Jimmy Johnson, because he's got the opportunity to seal up another one in Texas next week, which then would certainly box out yet another Joe Gibbs Racing team, possibly. Depending.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now not only are they sitting with Carl Edwards sitting at the bottom or below the cut line, that means who? Would that be a Hamlin or a Kenseth, which, or it could very well be a Kyle Busch, because like you said, we're a bad pit stop away, any one of these guys, right? We're a bad pit stop away, we're a blown tire, we're a run-in with a wall somewhere, we're a bad restart away from basically you're done. And then, like I said, the only place you have to contend with or any hope to save yourself is in Phoenix. Yeah, and to me, it's just the news tightens quickly after next week. I say season after season after season after season that I hate people hanging hopes on their driver to one. I hate because everyone should know by now. I'm a little bit of a Harvick fan. I'm not afraid to admit it. It isn't don't stop listening to the show because of it. But I've been following his career for a long time. Sure. And even as good as that team seems to work under pressure, I always cringe when someone says, even a broadcaster, an official broadcaster, not a right size only radio broadcaster, says, oh, well, I mean, let's face it. I mean, we've all pretty much got Harvick penciled in for the win in Phoenix. I cringe. Right. Because the 4 team has been rife. Today, they get nailed with speeding on pit road. Yeah. Like I said, once again, you've got to quit making the small mistakes that can cost you a race. And I was there at the spring race in Texas Motor Speedway, and I watched Martin Truex Jr. basically do everything except lap the personal jet that he flew in on during that race. Right. Had that race completely in the bag, could have punched his ticket into the chase at that moment, and it was a pit road strategy that wound up losing that race for them. It completely snuffed out their hopes. Right. Yeah. So you always have to. That's the deal. It's like, okay, I get it. I mean, he's very. Jimmy Johnson is very successful now. Jimmy Johnson doesn't really suffer. The 48 team doesn't seem to suffer from pit road issues. They don't appear. Him and Chad do not appear to tolerate pit road mishaps. Gotcha. Very much. Gotcha. But like I said, like we talked about before the show, man, you're a bad tire. You're a jack failing. You're a pit gun. Yeah. You're a jack stuck under the car. You're a jack stuck under the car away. I mean, it point, and there's only 2 races left, and there is 8 drivers, well, 7 technically now, fighting for a berth of 4, actually 3. Jimmy has successfully shored up one of the final 4 spots. Right. So it's going to be dangerous. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be contentious. I know that Jimmy Johnson, everyone should know that him and Chad Knaus and the 48 team are going to roll into Texas loaded for bear, and they are going to do everything in their power. I don't think Jimmy Johnson's going to ride around in back figuring, well, we got it in the bag now. Right.
because there's people he doesn't want to face in Homestead.
See, and that's the thing too, is, do they set up now to try to force, all the chasers that are behind you at this point? If you're
Absolutely.
not going to
I'd try to sweep the entire series, I'd be fighting to sweep. Mm-hmm. Now that you're not talking about Talladega as being the big wild card in the mix,
right?
When you're talking about Texas, which is a cookie cutter of Charlotte, basically, and you're talking about Phoenix, which is a kind of a somewhat flat, slick 1 mile track,
right?
I would be setting out to sweep the entire series,
right?
And just basically, then you wind up just letting the chips fall where they may.
Yeah. Well, you know what? So, sorry, dude. I was kind of looking at something here with the current chase grid. So, from a points perspective, it looks like, Kyle Busch is sitting just outside of both Denny Hamlin and Matt Kenseth, who are both -5 apiece. So, they're kind of tied for that second spot, right? So, yeah. Kyle Busch is right after that, and then Joey. But with Jimmy being in right now, so it almost looks like it's a Kyle Busch, Joey Logano battle possibly going into Texas next weekend. For the most part, depending on how either one of them finish. But for those, Kevin Harvick, dude, he's got ground to make up.
Yeah, so you've got Jimmy Johnson, Denny Hamlin, Matt Kenseth, and Kyle. Mm-hmm. You got it follows Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, Kurt Busch, and Carl Edwards.
Yeah.
So you've got Kevin Harvick and Joey Logano. I would have, in years past, I would have seen those two battling for a seed as being something just shy of mutually assured destruction. But interestingly enough, Kevin Harvick has helped Joey Logano out in this chase, and I've started to see a passing of the olive branch, and maybe that's related to the fact that next year they're going to be racing for the same manufacturer.
So the Fords are playing nice.
Well, let's face it, now is the time to start reaching across the aisle, if you will,
right.
And making Ford great again. So maybe there's something like that in play, but so now what you got to think about is now you got two guys who used to be bitterly after each other that may or may not be somewhat friendly.
Right.
You've got two teammates, Kevin Harvick and Kurt Busch, that it appears as though there's probably still some hurt feelings. Mm-hmm. You're not going to tell me that they kissed and made up and everything's all forgotten.
Already?
I don't believe it.
No.
Not with those two personalities.
Halloween's tomorrow. I'm busy.
And if I understand the way Kevin Harvick's brain works, he is thriving. He is thriving on the tension that is causing right now. It's just the way that he's wired. He's like I always said. He's like the mean kid with the magnifying glass and the ants.
It's like you say, dude. Wet hair don't care, dude. He just doesn't care, right?
That's
it just rolls along.
And just go ahead and accept that now, and just be okay with it or not be okay with it, but just accept that it's going to be the way it's be. So we're talking about the chase.
Yep.
And obviously there was some other racing this weekend. Johnny Sauter, I'm actually glad to see.
Yeah. He
went ahead and punched his way into the championship berth at Homestead. That was
fought hard for it too.
Yeah, man, huge win for that guy and that team. I'm super happy for him.
Yep.
Cliff actually sent me kind of the bullet points to the new. May or may not have heard about the new rules package for Xfinity next season and Camping World Truck Series next season. So it's kind of one of those, you asked for it.
You got it.
You got it.
You'll hear about it on Tuesday.
Yeah, so whatever. It kind of rolls into the fact, Evan and I, being off the mics for the last couple of weeks and kind of digging around saying, what's the big story in NASCAR coming out from the last week that's not just chase related or is. So, obviously everybody's gotten their hands around the Sprint Cup Series participation rules for 2017 that either allows or denies Cup drivers or other drivers, I guess you could say, that are competing in Sprint Cup to step down and compete in the Xfinity and Camping World Truck Series. So, yeah, we kind of highlighted a few of these, just trying to understand and getting our heads around it. The 5 years of full-time experience in the series can only compete in 10 Xfinity, 7 in Truck Series, so on and so forth. So, but out of all this, everybody's had an opportunity to digest all this stuff, but it kind of, certainly hits the nail on the head in addressing what we've even talked about on this show, is Xfinity a development series? We've beaten that horse to nauseum, right? So, I mean, now NASCAR steps up, obviously addresses the situation. I'm sure there's been a ton of complaints out there about whether it's fair, whether it's right, whether it's this, whether it's that. My question is, I guess, looking at this in its totality is, does this really address what it is that we were, I guess, as fans all asking for? And, we've heard different things come out over the last week or so about this of, does it kind of hobble the opportunity for teams to get funding because they're not going to have a Sprint Cup Series driver driving an Xfinity or Truck Series and that sort of thing. So, I mean, there's certainly a lot around this whole thing to kind of break down. But I guess the one, Evan, the one rule or caveat in this thing that kind of sticks out to me is what I called the pick and choose rule. So, I kind of understood this, that drivers with more than 5 years of full-time experience in the Cup Series can still run for an Xfinity or a Camping World Truck Series championship, but they have to declare for the championship points in those respective series, meaning they got to commit before the season starts.
Yeah, which is... And you're right. I don't know any other way except to call it the pick and choose, because I don't know, and maybe there's got to be some fine print. So I guess the question is, and Cliff kind of spoke to this a little bit, does that mean, let's take someone else other than Kyle Busch. I know everyone gets sick of hearing Kyle Busch, but...
take Kevin Harvick. He doesn't run that often.
Well, let's take Kevin Harvick. Let's say Kevin Harvick declares in the beginning of the season. Now, obviously... Stewart Haas is going to field an Xfinity Series car next season. They have agreed to put Cole Custer in the seat.
Yep.
But let's say that didn't happen. I tell you what. Let's take Junior.
Okay.
Junior decides, he declares in the beginning of the season that he is going to run. He has declared his entrance into the points race for the championship.
Right.
Does this mean that he has now hereby officially committed to running in that car, in that series? Is it every race? Is it when he feels like it? Is it what makes him a contender for the championship? What will disqualify him for being a contender for the championship? I guess those are kind of those are the voids that I'm wondering about.
Yeah.
So,
well, to your point, and that's exactly why I said that, right? So the way I read it and understood it, and somebody certainly can tell me I'm wrong, but the fact is that if you're starting to, you have to run the whole regular season series in order to garner the points, in order to contend to be eligible for the chase in either the Camping World Truck Series or the Xfinity Series. Is the way I understand it, right? So
which is going to be difficult, because some of those races happen in different parts of
locations.
The country.
Keselowski did it. He went up to Iowa and ran Iowa one weekend in, I believe, Xfinity, and came down to I don't remember. I thought it was Dover or
which is
Pocono,
not always feasible.
Like
it's not always feasible though.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, I called it the pick and choose rule, but I told you a little bit before we got on air tonight that it almost seems as though NASCAR's left a back door open, but man, I don't know anybody who would be willing to step through that door. Not just from a logistics standpoint, which we didn't talk about, that you just brought up, which is an excellent point. Logistically, how would you do this? Because we've seen several separate standalone races between the trucks and the Xfinity and so on and so forth. So logistically, is it even possible?
I mean, good question. So, and here's another factor is I don't know that they haven't even announced the Xfinity Series schedule for 2017.
Yeah.
So, if the schedule exists the way that it did this season, unless you're amongst the extremely determined, like a Kyle Busch,
right?
Yes, the answer would be very difficult for a Cup season, for a Cup Series regular,
right, to
participate, to contend for the championship.
My point that I brought up with you earlier was the fact that, take a Kevin Hart, take a Brad Keselowski, take a Joey Logano, whatever. So those guys, I mean, how can you commit to winning a championship in one of those lower series? Because you're going to be contending for the Sprint Cup Championship at the same time. I don't think they're. The bottom line is, I don't think they're going to. No. So so either you look at this kind of like, even though there's a backdoor option there, I mean, certainly somebody could step up and say, I'm willing to give this a shot and see if I can win 2 championships or 3 for that matter. But I'm telling you, I don't know how you do it.
I don't know. I know this. I know the Cup drivers got a taste of their own medicine today with the 47 car, just being all up in their grill.
Yeah.
Just like most of the race. I thought it was, and we talked about this before the show about this whole ideology, apparently, that if you're not in contention for the championship, you should just pull out of the way.
Yeah.
And it looked like the 47 car of AJ Allmendinger actually had a car that could contend. He battled around up in the top 10 and a little bit dabbled in the top 5 the entire day.
Yeah.
So I vehemently disagree with anyone who thinks that a non-contender should yield the right of way, tell his sponsors sorry, but I had to hit the brakes, let the faster cars through, which, oh, by the way, they weren't faster cars.
No.
Because I was up in the top 10 battling with all the elite level teams.
Sure.
So people just, this is racing. So here's my deal. Here's the challenge that I throw out to you and your driver. If your driver wants AJ Allmendinger to yield the right of way so they can win the race, here's the challenge that I throw. Tell your driver to outdrive AJ Allmendinger. That's it. It's that simple.
There's a solution.
To me, that's the most logical answer you can possibly. Hey, you want to beat him? Beat him.
Yeah.
You want him to get out of the way? Pass him.
Yeah.
There's that.
And I played a little bit of the Black Helicopter on that commentary too, of saying the fact that doesn't this kind of highlight the same difference that we argue about with the Xfinity Series or the Truck Series? So what I'm saying is, chase drivers in Sprint Cup Series who want non-contending chasers to yield to them. Isn't this somewhat indicative of how we complain about the Xfinity and Truck Series as well, though? Right?
Sure.
Because the chase racers in those series don't want non-contenders getting in their way.
I want the world to burn.
Yeah,
I want a guy like AJ Allmendinger to sneak up and steal a win.
Yeah.
And just watch everything come completely unhinged. Just knock everyone's chase grid completely off the board. That's what I want to see happen anyway. So to me, that's just part of what makes it. I mean, that's part of what makes the whole thing exciting. And since we have, it's kind of like the way the nation is right now. We're kind of split down the middle, where you've got 50% of the NASCAR fans like the chase grid, and it seems like 50% don't like the chase grid. So to me, the answer is total chaos.
Right. Yeah.
Anarchy. I want total anarchy.
Yeah.
Is kind of what I want. So I want someone in a golf cart to get on the track and take the checkers.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to happen. I mean, like I said, too, with having some of the guys that are currently sitting outside, no longer contending, but still very much a threat. Obviously Jimmy Johnson's still a threat from here on out. But Brad Keselowski's still very much a threat. Martin Truex Jr.
The 78 car. Come on, people.
Yeah.
That's not a guy you want to see in your rearview mirror.
And like we talked about, dude, they prepared cars to finish this out, to go all the way to Homestead. So whatever Penske or Furniture Row's got under, in the shops right now that are ready to hit those tracks, they're ready to win.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And by the way, Penske happens to have a guy right now that's still in the running.
Yeah.
So don't exactly count out the fact that Brad and Joey. You can think about what those two guys, what you want to think about them, but to each other, they're fantastic teammates.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those two are. Don't exactly rule out the idea that you've got two Penske cars technically that are battling for the same championship, because I can guarantee the two cars going to try to help the 22 car out every chance he gets.
Yeah. No, there's certainly some opportunity there yet to be realized, I think, pretty much across the board. So it'll be interesting to see for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't wait. And then everybody knows if you're going to be at Homestead for the championship race, shout us out. Give us a huge tweet. Let us know that you're there. I'm sure we're gonna try to get together and kiss some babies' heads and shake some hands. So,
dude, I'm looking forward to Homestead. Hopefully I'm all well and ready to go now. So.
Well, I mean, psychologically, I think the die has been cast, but I think everything else, I certainly hope. Physically, I hope that you're in better shape for sure.
Yeah.
So
we'll be good. Picks for Texas.
Woo! Well, This is interesting. So I actually had the 22 car here. I had the 22 car picked, and I'll go ahead and I'll kind of pimp my ideology, if you will, a little bit for this. I'm looking for kind of an upset. I'm looking for a huge upset.
Someone to blow up the world, huh?
Someone to blow up the world, and I'm looking for Joey to sneak up and steal a win at Texas. Obviously, everyone should know that going against the 48 in Texas is such a bad idea. But like I said, I'm a scorched earth kind of guy. I want to see the world burn, so I want to see stars collide. I want to see colossal clouds. I want to see big fireballs raining down.
How ironic for you, Evan! It's the second race of the chase, so the final 8, or getting down to the 4, and the following week is election day. You may get. Is it the following week after that?
So
right?
At least we'll get to see.
Your world might burn on all fronts.
One more good hoorah before the world literally burns. Right. So,
that's funny.
No, so I'm going to go ahead and pick Joey Logano. Obviously, everybody knows I've been running my mouth about him actually winning the Cup, like pretty much since the beginning of the season. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick with him and say that I think if anyone stands a chance of a good upset, it's him. So
yep,
why not? I mean, it's all for fun. I mean, it was easy to pick. It was so easy to pick 6-time for today.
Yeah.
I mean, he's now a 9-time winner.
Yeah.
He can open a clock shop for crying out loud.
Right.
So.
That's what my wife said. She goes, well, what do you do with that many grandfather clocks? And it kind of stunned me for him. I'm like, I don't know.
Take selfies with them.
Yeah.
You don't even have to say anything.
All throughout the house.
Yeah. You don't even have to say anything. Yeah. When you're a 6-time champion, you have 9 Martinsville clocks. It's like, now what?
Yeah, exactly.
Now what? Say something. So, you can hate on me all you want. But
that's funny. I'm going with, dude, I hate to do this. No, I don't hate to do it. I'm confident in the fact that this guy's pissed off. He's going after it. I think that, from here on out looking in, certainly he had Homestead in the hands last year, but Kyle Busch, number 18, I think is going to bring it home at Texas. I think he's done. He's throwing the gauntlet down. So,
we'll see how
he does.
Yeah, I don't know that he is, and this is completely irrespective of what you think about some of these people as individuals. He is arguably one of the most talented people to have ever gotten behind the wheel in the Sprint Cup Series. And I will always give him due credit for that. He is always dangerous at every track he goes to. And let's face it, they've been not exactly indicative of the way that they are capable of performing here as of late.
Right.
I think it's time for him. I think it's time for him to catch fire. And
it's either him or his brother, dude.
To gain momentum.
It's either going to be the 18 or the 41. That's all I got. Kurt needs it too. So
Kurt needs it too. And there's for some reason Texas seems to be a little tricky. I was kind of hoping that I could make it out there. I don't really see it happening. It was just going to be too hard for me to make it work. But I would have liked to have, because I really, really want to see how this all kind of shakes out. But I guess, like I said, it's one thing for sure. One thing for sure, Cliff.
What?
We're going to be there.
Yeah,
to watch them crown the Sprint Cup champion.
Hey,
we're going to be there. We're going to be there for
our weekend.
We're going to be there for Smoke's last stand.
Yeah,
we're going to be there for it.
And hey, dude, I mean, we got we have some possible history witnessing to do too. So after today, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we're going to have. It's going to be me. It's going to be you. It's going to be Batman. It's going to be absolutely legendary.
If you guys are headed out to Homestead, make sure you get in touch with us. We'd love to meet up and say hello.
Yeah, we'll have some stickers and some nice little giveaways. We'll have some Zip Air Tool stickers and pens and some right sides.
Come get some stuff.
Come get some stuff. Come get some love. Come get some right sides only radio and rightfronttire.com love.
There you go. All right, folks, that's it for us. Thanks for tuning in. If you have an opportunity, download our app from the Google Play or App Store, Right Sides Only Radio. Go check us out on Facebook, Right Sides Only Radio there. Twitter, at Right Sides Radio. Cliff and Evan, we're out. We'll talk to you guys next week after Texas.
Y'all be good.